Hello everyone, welcome back to another card tutorial. Today I have this super sweet and simple personalised birthday card. This card took no time at all to make. I whipped it up in whatever time my children allowed me to sit still, and this is what I used to make it. I used my Lawn Fawn Out of This World stamp set, this cute little moon and star stamp set by Neat and Tangled, and some Distress Oxide inks. I don't believe that this stamp set is available anymore. From what I have seen and read about Neat and Tangled, the owner/designer has decided to no longer continue making her stamps, which is such a shame because she made such beautiful things. So it might be a bit tricky to come by, but I'm sure there are plenty of alternatives. I know that some other brands have made things similar to this. So if you're hoping to copy it exactly, you might just have to get a bit creative with that moon. So here I am just ink blending my background. As you can see, that first ink that I opened up was like super saturated. I'm not sure what the go is with that one. It arrived like that. It's always been a particularly damp ink, which is really funny because then the Chip Sapphire ink that I have is really dry. I don't know if it's just like a batch thing or what. It still works. It's just a bit gooey, so I have to be careful when I open it that I don't get it everywhere like I did. And so what I'm doing with these three inks is just going back and forth and blending them together. I hadn't used this cardstock before, so I'm happy with how it all blended, but it did ball up the paper just a little bit. I am a very heavy-handed inker though, so I know it's my fault that this happens and that I need to be a bit more wary of that. To make the background look a little bit more interesting, I'm going to sprinkle some water over it. First I sprayed it, then I used my paintbrush for some bigger water drops, and I was actually really unhappy with how it looked at first, but I'll show you once it dries, it looks much better. I'm going to stamp out my images twice so that my lines are nice and thick and dark. And I'm only doing a few images for this card. I'm keeping it super simple. I'll leave you with some music while I colour these in. Once my colouring and white details were done, it was then time to stamp on my background. As you can see, it turned out much nicer once all those water droplets had dried. I'm running my anti-static powder all over this because this stamp is quite large and I don't want powder to stick in places where I don't really want it to. This won't matter so much for a card like this because it is a bit of a speckled background with those stars. And any other little white bits of embossing powder wouldn't hurt, but I feel like it's just a good habit to keep up. Otherwise I forget and then I ruin things because I need this anti-static powder. I swear it's something about where I live, but everything is just so static. So here I am using my embossing powder and I'm stamping this one twice because this ink pad is drying out just a little bit. I'm then going to cover that ink with my white embossing powder. I'm using my Lawn Fawn powder today. It's super fine. and I love how it melts. It's just really nice. Once that was done, I left it for a little bit so that I wouldn't smudge the freshly heated ink, and I'm going to work on the rest of the card front. From my Coles ABC dies, I cut the letters for this little boy's name, and I'm going to be colouring them in with the same Copics that I used to colour in some of the other images. I love the way this looks. It's a super simple way to add like a little bit of an ombre look to these letters. I'm just going in with the lighter colour at the top, the darker one down the bottom, and then using that light one again in the middle to blend them out. I also cut the same letters from black cardstock. It was at this point that I thought I should pop my double-sided tape on the back of my card front so that I don't have to do it later when I've got my 3D images on the front. Once that was done, I felt like I wanted to do some more splatters on this background to make it not look like all the stars were just bundled up together like that. I kind of wanted it to spread throughout the background. So what I'm doing here is using some white poster paint. This is just the kids' stuff from Kmart. It's like $2 for a giant bottle. I'm going to be set for about 30 years with this stuff. And I'm just going to sprinkle it all over. And the reason I'm covering this bit with paper is that it's already pretty star heavy, so I didn't want to add too many dots to that area. Once that was done, I set that aside to dry. And it was the perfect time to get my little letters sorted out. So here they are, the black and white letters, and I'm just going to stick them on, slightly offset, so that it gives the letters a little bit of a shadow. I'm leaving them under my acrylic block to dry. I find this is the best to keep them super flat so that they stick nicely. While my letters were drying, I then added some double-sided foam squares to the images that I wanted to pop up. I don't typically do sentiments on the inside of the card. I usually leave them blank, but because I knew who this card was going to, and it was only a few days away, I decided to put the sentiment, "Hope your birthday is out of this world." I feel like this suits a 4-year-old little boy perfectly. It was then time to put this whole card front together. I also used double-sided foam squares on the back of the letters too. I love adding all the dimension to these, especially with the black cardstock at the back and them being physically raised from the card front. Then with that gradient colour, I just feel like it's a super simple way to make a sentiment or someone's name really stand out. Once the little images were stuck on, this card was complete. I hope my son's friend loves it. It's such a cute and simple card, easy to whip up if you've only got a little bit of time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll be back again very soon with some more card tutorials. Bye for now.